I think of Jesus having a rule of life that has 3 parts to it: prayer, hospitality, justice. Jesus practices different kinds of praying. We know he goes up into the wilderness and he stays alone on a regular basis. We don't know exactly what he does there because he doesn't tell anyone and nobody's watching. But we get the clear indication that he's practicing a contemplative type of prayer. He's listening to God's love for him. He's listening to God's God is calling him to do, to be. And so he comes out of those times of solitude, empowered and full of love and discernment. With all of that, he practices hospitality. He makes room in his life for all kinds of people, especially people that are not welcome in other people's lives. The tax collectors, the sick people, the unclean people, every kind of unclean you can think of, he makes room for. And he, in that space, that sort of broad open space where he makes room for people, it's possible for them to be transformed. They can receive God's love, or they can reject it, but there's space there for them. So the prayer leads to the hospitality. And then out of these encounters with these people, Jesus brings healing and brings renewal and a new direction. And every time he does that, he's up against these systems of the powers and principalities in the systems. And so every act of Jesus healing and Jesus making all things new becomes an exercise in justice, God's justice. I think of God's justice being the same thing as God making all things new. That's how God does justice. He makes all things new. So when Jesus touches the woman with the issue of blood, for example, he's violating taboo. He's also, in a sense, pronouncing judgment on an unjust system of exclusion. He's touching her anyway. And it's that sort of thing. So in our lives as followers of Jesus, as we practice this contemplative stance, showing up, paying attention, cooperating with God and releasing the outcome, we gain the ability to hear God. We start opening space in our life for people that we normally wouldn't be interested in or even notice maybe. Even making space in our life for enemies somehow in our prayer and our practice. And out of this relationship that's built, because now we pray for people and now we have a relationship with them, we begin to hurt where they hurt, and we begin to feel offended when they are offended. And so we find ourselves compelled by the love of God to get involved and to work for justice. So that's how these things cycle around. And once you're involved in justice work, you're driven back to prayer because it's really hard.
Right.
And so it's this ever-deepening cycle. And along the way, as you live this way, people see it and are hungry for whatever it is that's motivating you in life to be this kind of a person.
Got a good fragrance.
Yes, and that's how people are evangelized. It's how we live. It's this holy life has a byproduct of evangelism.
I thought evangelism was like making policy.